In the icy grip of an Illinois winter, a 13-year-old girl vanishes from her own bedroom without a trace. But was it a stranger's abduction, or something far more sinister lurking within her own home? On January 31st, 1996, in the quiet suburb of Bolingbrook, Illinois, the temperature plunged to a bone-chilling 0 degrees Fahrenheit, with relentless winds howling through the snow-covered streets like an ominous warning. 13-year-old Rachel Mellon Skemp, a bright and bubbly honors student at Ward Middle School, woke up that morning with a sore throat that kept her from attending classes. Her mother, Amy Mellon, a dedicated woman of Filipino descent who worked tirelessly to support her family, kissed her goodbye and headed out early for her shift at a local job, leaving Rachel in the care of her stepfather, Vince Mellon, who was unemployed and spending his days at home. Rachel was born on October 13, 1982, in Melrose Park, Illinois, to Amy and her first husband, Jeff Skemp. The couple's marriage dissolved when Rachel was just a toddler, leading to a custody arrangement where Rachel lived primarily with her mother, but maintained some contact with her father, who later relocated to Dallas, Texas. Amy soon remarried Vince Mellon, a man with a checkered past, and the couple expanded their family with 2 younger children, 5-year-old Jason and toddler Ashley. The Mellons lived in a modest 2-story home on Melissa Drive, a neighborhood that seemed idyllic on the surface. Tree-lined streets, friendly neighbors, and the hum of suburban life. But beneath the facade, tensions simmered in the household, with reports of arguments and instability that would later come under scrutiny. What hidden tensions in the Mellon home might have foreshadowed tragedy? And how could a young girl disappear without anyone hearing a sound? Rachel was a typical teenager in many ways, full of dreams and passions that lit up her world. She loved playing her guitar, strumming along to the raw emotions of Alanis Morissette's songs, which resonated with her budding sense of independence. At school, she excelled in science, her curious mind always probing the mysteries of the natural world. Friends described her as outgoing, kind-hearted, and environmentally conscious. She was an avid recycler, often collecting cans and bottles to make a small difference. Rachel had a close-knit group of friends, sharing secrets and laughter during lunch breaks. But she also confided in them about troubles at home, hints of discomfort that she kept mostly to herself. Her diary, a private sanctuary of thoughts, would later reveal glimpses into her inner turmoil. That fateful morning unfolded like any other sick day. Rachel and Vince spent time together in the living room, playing video games to pass the hours. Around 2:30 p.m., feeling the weight of her illness, Rachel wrapped herself in a familiar blue blanket, grabbed 2 pillows for comfort, and retreated to her bedroom for a much-needed nap. Vince later recounted to investigators that he decided to brave the freezing weather to take the family dog, a loyal but energetic pet, for a walk. During this outing, he claimed the dog slipped its collar, turning a simple stroll into a chaotic chase through the snowdrifts, delaying his return home. How could a brief dog walk stretch into something that allowed a girl to vanish? And what scratches on Vince's body told a story he couldn't fully explain? Upon returning, Vince said he didn't immediately check on Rachel. Instead, he tinkered in the garage with his car, which he insisted was inoperable due to mechanical issues. It wasn't until Rachel's half-siblings, Jason and Ashley, arrived home from school around 3:15 p.m. that questions arose. The children noticed their sister's absence from the living room and bedroom, but Vince dismissed it casually. Amy returned from work at approximately 5 p.m., expecting to find her daughter resting. Instead, panic set in as the family searched the house. Rachel was gone. No coat to shield her from the deadly cold, no shoes on her feet, no purse with her belongings. Just an empty bed, stripped of its blanket and pillows, in a room that showed no signs of struggle. Bolingbrook police were notified around 6:45 p.m., their cruisers pulling up to the Mellon home as darkness enveloped the neighborhood. Initially, the case was classified as a possible runaway. Rachel had once left home the previous summer for about 12 hours, fearing punishment after accidentally breaking a household item. But the sub-zero temperatures and lack of winter gear made that scenario improbable. Officers canvassed the area, knocking on doors and shining flashlights into backyards, but found no footprints in the fresh snow, no witnesses who saw a girl wandering alone. The family dog, known for its vigilant barking at strangers, had remained eerily silent throughout the day, raising questions about whether an intruder could have entered undetected. Could Rachel have slipped away unnoticed in such harsh weather? Or were the answers concealed in the inconsistencies of the only adult present? As the investigation intensified, eyes turned to Vince Mellon, the last person to see Rachel alive. Detectives noted fresh scratches on his neck and throat, marks that looked suspiciously like defensive wounds. Vince attributed them to scraping against parts while working under his car's hood, but his explanation faltered under scrutiny. Why hadn't he peeked into Rachel's room upon returning from the walk? Why did he wait hours before raising an alarm? His timeline had gaps, and his demeanor struck some officers as detached, almost rehearsed. Vince's background only fueled suspicions. Court records revealed a history of domestic battery charges and DUI convictions, painting a portrait of a man prone to volatility. Police logs showed multiple calls to the Mellon residence in prior years for domestic disturbances, including arguments that escalated to physical altercations. Amy, devoted to her family, stood by her husband initially, but whispers from neighbors suggested a household rife with fear and control. Vince agreed to a polygraph test, a standard tool in such cases, but the results were damning. He failed on critical questions regarding his knowledge of Rachel's fate and any involvement in her disappearance. What chilling revelations lay within Rachel's hidden diary, and how did a single entry expose a motive that shocked investigators? The case languished for years, with searches yielding nothing. No clothing, no blanket, no pillows. Then, in March 2000, over 4 years after Rachel vanished, a breakthrough. Investigators executed a search warrant on the Mellon home and discovered Rachel's diary tucked away in her bedroom. An entry dated August 7th, 1995, detailed a horrifying incident. Rachel wrote that Vince had entered her room, kissed her on the mouth, and touched her inappropriately while her mother was away. He allegedly warned her about predators outside the home, insisting such acts were for when she was older, and urged her not to tell anyone. This entry, corroborated by friends who recalled Rachel crying uncontrollably by her school locker the day before she disappeared, pointed to a possible motive: abuse and the fear of exposure. Friends provided more context, describing Rachel as increasingly withdrawn in the months leading up to her vanishing. One classmate remembered Rachel confiding that she felt uncomfortable around her stepfather, though she never elaborated fully. Another friend mentioned Rachel's plans for the future, dreams of becoming a veterinarian or environmental activist, plans that seemed abruptly silenced. The diary's discovery reignited the investigation, prompting authorities to re-interview witnesses and scrutinize Vince's alibi anew. The question remained: would the grand jury bring hidden truths to light, or would the absence of a body leave the case unresolved for eternity? In January 2000, a grand jury was convened in Will County to probe Rachel's disappearance as a homicide. Vince was subpoenaed and detained for 9 hours of questioning. Under oath, he invoked his Fifth Amendment rights repeatedly when pressed about the events of January 31st, 1996. He submitted DNA samples, blood, saliva, and hair, for comparison, but no matches to any evidence were announced. Notably, one of the officers instrumental in organizing the grand jury was Drew Peterson, a Bolingbrook sergeant, who would later gain infamy for the disappearance and murder of his own wife, Stacy Peterson, in 2007. Peterson's involvement added an ironic layer to the case, highlighting potential oversights in domestic-related investigations within the department. Despite the grand jury's efforts, no indictments were issued. Searches extended beyond Bolingbrook. Jeff Skemp's home in Dallas was inspected, as were properties belonging to his relatives. Speculation arose about Rachel possibly being taken to the Philippines by Amy's family, but international inquiries led nowhere. Dive teams scoured nearby lakes and rivers, K-9 units tracked scents through wooded areas, and aerial surveys scanned the frozen landscape, all to no avail. Jeff, maintaining limited but hopeful contact with his daughter before her disappearance, kept his phone number unchanged for decades, praying for a call that never came. In 2006, he organized a memorial service, acknowledging the grim likelihood of foul play while clinging to a sliver of hope. What fractures appeared in the Mellon family after the disappearance? And why does Rachel's father refuse to let the case fade into oblivion? In the aftermath, the Mellon family unraveled. Amy and Vince eventually relocated to Tennessee, seeking a fresh start away from the accusing stares of Bolingbrook. Reports surfaced of their marriage straining under the weight of suspicion, though they remained together. Vince's ex-wife from a prior marriage came forward with allegations of abuse, describing patterns of control and violence that mirrored concerns in the Mellon home. Amy, torn between loyalty and doubt, rarely spoke publicly, but sources close to the family suggested she grappled with the possibility of her husband's involvement. Jeff Skemp, however, became a tireless advocate. From his home in Texas, he launched campaigns to keep Rachel's story alive, distributing flyers and speaking to media outlets. In interviews, he expressed frustration with the initial investigation. Why hadn't police searched the garage or Vince's supposedly broken-down car that very night? He theorized that Rachel's body might have been concealed there temporarily, perhaps wrapped in the missing blanket, before being disposed of elsewhere. Jeff envisioned Rachel as a fighter for justice. If alive today, she might be marching for social causes, her voice strong and unyielding. Could advancements in forensics breathe new life into this cold case? Or will the secrets of that winter day remain frozen in time? As years turned into decades, the case grew colder, but technological progress offered glimmers of hope. DNA databases expanded, and cold case units revisited evidence with modern tools like ground-penetrating radar and isotopic analysis for potential burial sites. In 2021, on the 25th anniversary, ABC 7 Chicago reported the investigation remained active, with preserved evidence awaiting breakthroughs. The National Center for Missing and Exploited Children released an age-progressed image of Rachel, depicting her as a woman in her 40s, to reignite public interest. Renewed attention came in 2024 when People magazine published a feature recapping the mystery, urging tips to Bolingbrook police. And in August 2025, the podcast Voices for Justice, hosted by Sarah Turney, dedicated an episode to Rachel's story, delving into the diary revelations and Vince's inconsistencies, calling for listeners to share any information. Jeff continues to maintain a Facebook page, Help Find Rachel Mellon Skemp, posting annual appeals and sharing memories of his daughter, her smile, her laughter, her unfulfilled potential. Theories abound in true crime circles. Was Rachel abducted by a stranger who slipped in unnoticed? Did she run away, succumbing to the elements? Or, as most suspect, Was she silenced by someone she knew to cover up dark secrets? Forensic experts speculate that without a body, prosecution is challenging. But circumstantial evidence, the failed polygraph, the diary, the scratches, builds a compelling narrative. Rachel would be 42 today, perhaps a mother, an advocate, living the life stolen from her. Instead, her disappearance stands as a stark reminder of hidden dangers in the places we feel safest. The blue blanket and pillows, emblems of her final moments, whisper of a truth yet to be uncovered. As the winds of that January day faded, a family's anguish endured, echoing through the years. What really happened to Rachel Mellon Skemp? The silence from those who may know holds the key, waiting for the day justice breaks through. If you have thoughts on this case or suggestions for future episodes, drop them in the comments below. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more true crime content. Stay safe out there, and I'll see you in the next video.